And it feels good on a Monday after a Broncos victory. That's right. It is orange and blue today. Counting you down. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason on assignment, but back in the Mile High City.
I'm al fresco. It's not a bad day. It was a little cold when I left the Mile High City Saturday morning. This is nicer, but not as nice as Southern California. Man, I delighted in the 75-degree temperatures the last couple of days that I experienced. And now it's back to Colorado. I'm back to the puffer vest and, not quite gloves, but it is a little chilly out here.
And here we go, chilly and all. It's orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. And what did we learn from the Broncos' win over the Chargers, Mace?
It's a good question. I don't think we learned anything that we weren't already in the process of knowing. What we learned is that this team is maturing as a legitimate playoff contender because you're facing a foe that is down. It was the prime opportunity maybe for a little bit of a letdown, even though you'd lost the week before to Houston, but you had Detroit on the other side, a big game. Even though it's a divisional rival, the Chargers not in good straits right now, even before losing Justin Herbert. This was a game where some teams might have let up a little bit, but the Broncos kept their foot down, didn't give the Chargers reason to hope, and even for a moment where it looked like Los Angeles might have had a gleam, as the late Marty Schottenheimer would say, getting a fourth down stop in the red zone extinguished said gleam.
Yes, and I'm not exactly sure. You and I haven't talked about Easton Stick very much. Like, he's okay. Mm-hmm. He's not great. But
he's a backup.
How many times
he's a perfectly cromulent backup.
A team that has the backup take over and then gets beaten because you haven't prepared. It's something that I wrote about in Mile High Monday. Like, we have to give this Broncos team credit because they sensed blood in the water, Mace, and they didn't let the change up. He's no Justin Herbert, but you and I have seen it where backups can come in and beat a good team.
Well, the whole thing is that you don't have film on the quarterback, right? When they come in, Easton Stick had all of one regular season pass coming into Sunday's game. So the element of surprise could have favored the Chargers in that scenario, but to the Broncos' credit, they did not get crossed up by the element of surprise. Part of it also is that Los Angeles didn't really change very much for Easton Stick, having him out there. And I think, and that certainly helped the Broncos preparation-wise. It wasn't like going to a quarterback who was of an extreme stylistic difference. There's a reason why he is there as the backup to Justin Herbert. He can run the offense. He doesn't have the cannon that Justin Herbert does, but he can run it in much the same way as Justin Herbert, kind of stick to his marks, etc. And the Broncos didn't get crossed up by that. Really, the only hiccup was the back-to-back downfield shots that set up Austin Eckler's touchdown run early in the fourth quarter. I actually think that maybe was a little bit more of Quentin Johnston finally starting to emerge. You and I talked about him before the game, that maybe he's starting to finally grasp things and come into his own. I view that more as a good sign for the Chargers heading into next year than something the Broncos did appreciably wrong in terms of allowing those plays that set up the one touchdown the Chargers had.
Right, and we learned that this defense, they can fall asleep on a play where Quentin Johnston will get you, but the fierceness, the disruptive dropbacks, and the sacks were there for everyone who's sack crazy. Like
six
everything was there. And I believe they said this on the broadcast, so correct me if I'm wrong, the most sack yards in, at least for this season, if not for a while, in a single game. I want to say team history.
Yeah, I think it was Romy Bean of CBS 4 who said it was the most in team history.
Okay.
Which is pretty impressive. But, you didn't have like some 1 yard sacks. They were full retreat, big quarterbacks trying to extend plays, and then the Broncos ultimately punishing them. I do think one thing that is interesting going forward is to see, will this defense reach a point where it's generating pressure without blitzing? Because we're still seeing this happen with an emphasis on the blitz. You use it right, you time it right, it's very effective. But if you're going to succeed in the postseason, you're going to have to be able to generate pressure without sacrificing coverage, because there are quarterbacks who are going to take advantage of that, and possibly even a quarterback in a scheme, and Jared Goff and Ben Johnson's scheme in Detroit on Saturday, that may try to exploit the Broncos' blitz tendencies. So we're going to get into that later on in the week, but that is something that really fascinates me going into this matchup.
Right, and since the turnaround and the turnovers return for this team, Mace, we also recognize and realize what Vance Joseph has done in creating one of the most aggressive concepts. So he's back to blitzing, and it's working, but it won't work all the time. And again, we'll game plan this thing for Detroit, and even into the postseason, if this team makes it, it's better quarterback play.
Yeah, and just remember the old cliche, it's never as good as it seems when it's going well. It's never as bad as it seems when it's going poorly. We heard that from Mike McGlinchey last week, and I think that's something to think about coming out of this game. It's all good feelings. The Broncos are 7-6. They're in pretty good playoff position right now. The percentages are starting to favor them based on what their schedule has coming forward and what the other contenders have going forward. However, there are things over the horizon. We try to look over the horizon, right? Last week it was, people were all up in arms about what was being said about Russell Wilson after 3 interceptions. Well, we were kind of tapping the brakes before. And, there'll be some tapping the brakes again after this game, right? On the offensive side. And similarly on the defensive side. There's a counter move to everything. That's the beauty of this sport. It's like chess. You make an advance, you leave yourself weak in another area, and you have to think moves ahead. The blitz is great when it's working, but there are ways to exploit it. And you're probably going against, in my opinion, the best offensive mind that you're going to see on the schedule in Ben Johnson guiding the Detroit Lions offense on Saturday night.
Future head coach for somebody.
Yeah. He will be able to name his price, have any number of offers, which is why, even though I know Carolina would love to get him, he was a guy they interviewed last year. I don't think Carolina is going to represent the best shot for Ben Johnson. I don't know if he's going to want to work for David Tepper.
No, I don't think anyone will want that. But we could be seeing a matchup of 2 future head coaches, Ben Johnson and Vance Joseph.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that about Vance Joseph, because
I said that 2 weeks ago, and people thought it was crazy. It's like, it's not crazy. That's the way this league works.
Well, it was crazy coming from you because you had him fired after week 3. Let's be fair, man.
Well, I mean,
we live in a different world now than we did in week 3.
Right,
I'll forgive you for that.
I'm never going to back down my comments from week 3 saying he was going to get fired. That was, I wish I could cuss, because it was.
You were hot.
It begins with an SH and it ends with it, okay? That was crap. It was absolute garbage performance, and that's why we do live in a different world now, and we have to talk about what's going on now. What's going on now is Vance Joseph's getting a lot of attention.
He is, and he will get interviews. Everyone still wants the offensive-minded coach, which may favor other candidates. But he does bring previous head coaching experience. We've seen plenty of coaches who, in their second shot, did much better than their first shot. And when you're looking at a potential head coach, a characteristic that you're looking for is, do they make players better? Do they make units better? Is there appreciable growth? Well, to say there's appreciable growth from the Broncos defense is understating it to a wild degree. This defense has become one of the league's best, and not even 3 months ago we were literally talking about the worst single game performance any defense had ever had in nearly 57 years. You went from rock bottom to this. I did ask Jaquan McMillan, in fact, about whether maybe the team needed to have that rock bottom moment to be where it is. And he said maybe it didn't need to be like that, but it was very much a part of the process of this defense and this team becoming what it is. That they had that kind of moment. It's embarrassing. It's a challenge to who you are as a player, who you are as a person, professionally speaking, and bit by bit, Vance Joseph and these players met that challenge.
Well, you just said it, Mace, so I'm going to ride off your own words. Like, there's always a reaction. There's always a change in football, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to run a play, it's going to work, and then they're going to figure it out, and it's not going to work. How do you react to that? You're going to call a defense, and it's not going to work, and it might be historic in how it doesn't work.
Yeah.
How do you react to that? I think that we need to praise everyone, Vance Joseph on down, and the defensive changes, the return of Baron Browning, like, all of these factors, benching Damari Mathis, basically, like PJ Locke stepping in. It's been good, been great.
You know what? This is the NFL. Sometimes it's not nice. Sometimes guys get benched, right? If you're not performing, it does stand for not for long, as Jerry Glanville used to always say, right?
Right.
I mean, it's funny. He said that famous quote, and he got fired from his job barely 4 months later. After going to the playoffs, he took the Oilers to the playoffs 3 consecutive years, and had successfully rebuilt them from the ashes of being the worst team in football in the mid-1980s. And then, what was the reward? He got ziggied, right? It's not for long. So, respectfully to Damari Mathis, you know what? He wasn't performing, and thus. You as Mike Shanahan would have said, you get another guy, right? Fabian Moreau, to his credit, Fabian Moreau, who went unsigned the entire offseason, was available in August, which basically says, look, he's on the discard pile, right? The scratch and dent pile. And for the most part, not a great day for him yesterday, but for the most part, he's delivered. And PJ Locke, my goodness, we have to have the conversation about re-signing PJ Locke in the offseason because of how well he's playing. The imminent conversation is going to be, after this week when Kareem Jackson returns, who's the starting safety? Sean Payton kind of tabled that at his conference call this morning. But, again, we look over the horizon on this show. That's bearing down on the horizon, that choice, what you're going to do at safety. And, frankly, I think it should be P.J. Locke that fills that role.
Oh, yeah, Mace, you and I know that. Let's, before we get to the offensive side, and boy, do we have some stuff to say about the offense. Andrew does ask, because everybody's talking about it, it's called trend jacking in the YouTube world, Mace, but the trend of Pat Mahomes melting down, the Kansas City Chiefs, Kadarius Toney not checking in with the ref, Andy Reid admitting that he didn't check in with the ref, but then kind of also blaming the officials, Mahomes losing his mind when a call, which is the correct call, by the way, doesn't go his way. Like, it was, honestly, it was embarrassing. I'm not a Chiefs fan by any means, but that was embarrassing for that team and for Mahomes to behave that way.
They're going to look back at some of the things that they said over the last 24 hours and realize that they lost their minds, lost their composure, and came across as very immature. You know, the funny thing is, for all that, you know, Broncos country obviously doesn't like Patrick Mahomes because he's the Chiefs quarterback, he's the rivals quarterback, and he's taken the number of the Broncos many times over the years. And certainly some people in Patrick Mahomes' orbit, like his brother Jackson Mahomes, have done some objectionable things, right? But Patrick Mahomes, in general, has conducted himself with a great deal of dignity and class. Frankly, he got emotional. It was a surprise. I think a couple of months from now, he's going to look back and say, man, I've got to handle that a little bit differently. But you know what? We're always in the process of maturing. But, man, you hear that? Ref blaming, especially from that team, okay? We don't have to go back very deep into the Rolodex to see the times when they got some generous calls. let's just go back to when the Broncos met the Chiefs on New Year's Day. An awful call against Courtland Sutton for offensive pass interference.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
I mean, I still don't know what the officials were seeing there. That call basically ends up winning the game for Kansas City. I put the
zero.
screenshot of the 0 on the play clock from the 2018 game. And yes, I know there's the whole thing. Oh, well, there's discretion.
You get a little bit of a beat.
Yeah, okay. There was a 2-second beat on that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that my friend Chris Harris Jr. shared. I put that out there, and he shared that, and he helped amplify that, because we all remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That could have and should have been a Broncos win. So to hear this from the arch rivals to the east along I-70, oh man, the irony is rich.
When they get calls almost on a weekly basis, you could point to like once a year, and minimum, but like it's almost a weekly basis they get favorable calls. And I believe, not to play armchair psychologist, Mace, but it's the pressure of what Kansas City isn't, and it's Mahomes feeling that pressure, knowing that they let one get away in a season where, is everything going to go through Baltimore now in the
Maybe.
AFC? Possibly could. I think Mahomes is feeling that pressure because he doesn't have the receivers to throw to. They're a Kelsey-dependent team.
Yeah.
And Pacheco's banged up because he's the angriest runner in the league. He has shoulder problems because he's the angriest runner in the league. Like, you got some issues, and I think that piled on to Pat yesterday.
Yeah, it all boiled over, and that's why I think he's going to look back and say, "Man, that's not me." And I doubt you'll see Patrick Mahomes react in the same way again. But hey, sometimes we have emotional reactions of which we can be a little bit ashamed. But doesn't mean we're not going to have a little fun, because this is a sport. It's a game. It's supposed to be fun. Doesn't mean we're not going to have a little fun with some memes and stuff at their expense in the short term. Sometimes you got to take the L and you got to wear it around your neck for a little bit. That's where the Chiefs are right now. But yeah, you mentioned kind of the frustration of staring down the barrel of likely having to go on the road in the postseason. So now the Chiefs have the tiebreaker with Miami, but if Miami wins tonight against Tennessee, it's a 2-game gap in the AFC playoff race. So you have that. So between those two teams, Baltimore and Miami, kind of running away, it's looking like the Chiefs are going to be that be the 3 or the 4 seed. And let's bring it to the Broncos for a moment, because they're sitting there as one of 6 teams at 7-6, but the team at 8-5, Cleveland, we know that's a little bit fragile there with Joe Flacco as their 4th quarterback this year, and the Broncos win that tiebreaker. It is not inconceivable, Cease, to where we're talking about the Broncos, not just getting in, but maybe even being the 5th seed, the 6th seed. It's not out of the realm of possibility that the Broncos open the playoffs next month in Kansas City. How do you like them apples? Wouldn't that be something?
Yep. Kansas City or Miami, here we come. Well, here you come anyway. Before we get to the offense, just some quick injury updates. Holy Diver asks in the chat room, any word on Benito? We have Quinn Miners also with the heart thing. Let's go over those before we get to the offense.
No update on Nick Benito just yet. Imagine we'll probably hear something by Wednesday. The fact, the early indication, I mean, I think you're basically hoping that maybe it's a week-to-week thing rather than something that's a season ender. Although he did take the cart back to the locker room after being examined in the blue medical tent. However, he did walk to the cart. That could mean nothing. That could mean something. We'll find out. Of course, don't forget you also had Jonathan Cooper was briefly shaken up, came back in the game. PJ Locke and Jaquan McMillan had that collision in the 4th quarter. They came back in the game, but PJ kind of took a little shot to the throat, and had a chance to chat with him after the game. And, he sounded like he could barely speak. So these are just keep your eye on them. I think they're all going to be fine to play, but I just wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos take some caution with guys this week. Quinn Miners, he was on his way back from Los Angeles today. Everything appears to be clear there, but that's something with the heartbeat that they're going to want to monitor.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that situation. And Mace, as we get to the offense.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, indeed.
Jerry was frustrated. They featured Jeudy. He didn't come through.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the question last night on the post-game show, how much more time are you giving him before you just go to Brandon Johnson or Marvin Mims? But if you looked at the reception perception, Matt Harmon from Yahoo does great work, reception perception.
Mm-hmm.
Marvin Mims ain't getting open unless it's go route. He's got to be a better route runner. We all love Marvin Mims, but we're only going to tell the truth, and the truth seems belligerent at times. The truth is Marvin Mims doesn't know how to run routes yet. Bottom line.
Yeah.
So Jerry's not getting it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do they go?
He's got to add some branches to the route tree, and sometimes that takes some time to come in there. I'll say this also on that early interception. Everyone wants to kind of point the finger of blame and say one or the other. It's actually both, okay? Russell Wilson doesn't put that ball where it needs to go. Marvin Mims doesn't get separation. He should make that catch. I mean, it's difficult, but it's catchable.
Right.
But that's one, like, I hate this thing of saying, oh, it's one or the other. No. It's that was a collaborative failure right there to start the game for the Broncos offense. With Jerry Jeudy, man, it's frustrating, and it's frustrating to watch sometimes. I'll say this. First of all, the drop, the deep play down the right side. I don't know if you've seen the all 22 yet, but I had the end zone angle, it's kind of a corner end zone angle that we have from the press box at SoFi Stadium. And there wasn't a moment I thought that play was going to be complete. As I was watching it develop, watching him get turned around, and then honestly, he actually makes a nice play to have a chance at catching the ball. I mean, he's going to be frustrated with it, but it was just nobody was on the same page there. The fact that Jerry had a chance, it's a good play by him, and also, Russ kind of hung it up, but it wasn't necessarily where Russ wanted it to go, right? And I mean, it's makeable but frustrating. I think the one that's going to sit with him, though, is not getting the left foot dragged for a touchdown. That's something that they work on in practice constantly.
And it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
It's not like there was a toe and it's like, oh, he's wearing dark shoes, so that's why they could see. No, his full foot was out of bounds.
You know what's interesting about that, Cecil, is like that play initially being ruled a touchdown, it was not one where you're like the play in Buffalo where Courtland Sutton got the touchdown on the 4th down. And it was initially ruled incomplete, and it was just kind of inconceivable that he actually got both feet down, got the toes down, but he did, right? That one, as you watch it develop, it didn't seem like a question, right? I mean, he had pretty ample space to get the left foot down, and, basically, I mean, the sad thing is he kind of put more effort into the celebration than he put into getting the foot down.
Right.
The celebration was terrific, by the way. By the way, did you know today is the 40th anniversary of a turning point for NFL celebrations? It's the 40th anniversary of when the Washington Fun Bunch, after an Art Monk touchdown in Dallas, they did their celebration in the end zone at Texas Stadium, and 2 Cowboys defenders came in and broke it up and tried to get in the middle of it. It led to a fight. There were offsetting unsportsmanlike conduct fouls. A similar thing had happened earlier in the season with a full-scale fracas after Mark Gastineau of the Jets did his sack dance thing. Remember that?
Of course.
And the Rams didn't like that. And the result was in the following offseason, the NFL clamped down on orchestrated group celebrations. So, so it's just interesting that we're talking about this, and I saw that come across my timeline 40 years ago. And I'm just old because I remember watching that game when I was 7 years old. I mean,
yeah. No, the Fun Bunch was fun. It
oh
would
my
be fun if Jerry Jeudy came through. Now, they
Yeah.
did mention on the broadcast, like, they could use slants. And I had said on Coffee Break, I think, Jerry Jeudy should be a slant god. You should treat him like the Browns treat Amari Cooper, another Alabama guy.
What about how the
slant him to
Saints
death.
treated Michael Thomas with Sean Payton?
Exactly. And listen, that stuff is available for somebody, but it's so frustrating with Jeudy because it's like they're giving you the opportunity, and you're not taking it.
Do you think not having the slants is a function of working around some of the limitations of Russell Wilson in this scheme?
Yes, 1,000%.
Okay.
Yeah. And one of the things that I said on Mile High Monday today, Courtland Sutton's a number one. I know that people will say he's not, and our boss, James Marilat, will be like, Russell Wilson doesn't even have a number one. They're working in one of the most conservative offenses in the league. You're dealing with a quarterback that can't run the coach's offense. Courtland has 40 fewer catches than Tyreek Hill and only 2 fewer touchdowns. Courtland Sutton is a number one. For this team, he is a number one. He's not Justin Jefferson, when Jefferson's healthy, number one, or Tyreek Hill, number one. But for this team, here's their number one because Jeudy's not coming through.
Yeah, very specifically for this team. Mm-hmm. And what are the best periods of Courtland Sutton's career? This moment and the first half of the 2019 season. In both cases, you were trying to establish the run, and you had a quarterback who could do one thing really well, and that was throw it deep, right? It was Joe Flacco then. It's Russell Wilson now. It's a different style of deep ball, but same general concept. And so for what this offense is right now, Courtland Sutton is a wide receiver one. What this evolves into in the next couple of years, what the Broncos' plan is at quarterback, that may yield something different. But today, Courtland Sutton is a wide receiver one for the Broncos. Now, if they are going to evolve the offense differently, and it comes back to the long-term questions about Russell Wilson, that everyone's has good feelings right now. You and I were talking about this during the 5-game winning streak, and we can talk about it again. The questions aren't answered as far as whether he's back or not.
No,
they're not. So
what did we learn yesterday in the Chargers win? You still have questions about your quarterback running the offense.
You do. And this Saturday may present a very interesting challenge because, this is all about complementary football. If the Lions are countering the blitz and do so successfully, this game takes on a different tenor where it becomes maybe more of a shootout type of game. What do the Broncos have to respond to that? Before we go, do we want to hit on a couple of the sound bites from the locker room before we
see? This is why we got so much to say, and then I was like, oh yeah, we got locker room. I got Zach Allen and Adam Troutman. Which one do you want, baby?
Let's start with Zach Allen because he gets into sort of the identity of the defense, and let's roll that beautiful beam footage from Zach Allen.
Yeah, I think everyone's competing to make plays, which is definitely a lot of fun. It's instead of survival, it's you're trying to excel, which is the way the defense is made to be played. And VJ, he calls a great game, and everyone's going to get their opportunity. So it's a really fun defense to be a part of. I think we got this is the best defense by far I've ever been a part of. So it's just the most fun we're all having playing football right now.
Probably doesn't say all that much. It's the best defense he's been a part of because he was in Arizona the last 4 years, respectfully. And really only the 2021 Cardinals defense was worth writing home about in that stretch.
Right.
But they're all getting after it. And that's another thing that's really interesting. You've got the alpha in the secondary in PS2. In the front seven, you don't have that alpha. This is a collective, right? You've got some guys who can play, guys with potential. Baron Browning is very much looking the part. And Zach Allen, rough start, but this is why you trust the full length of the season rather than saying, oh, he's a bust after 3 games or 4 games or whatever, right? This is why, like with Russell Wilson, let it play out. Let the season progress, and then will be able to come to a conclusion here. So I think all of these are key, but you're doing it without, you're doing it with a cast of many. You don't know who the top guy is going to be from week to week. That makes it hard to counter for an opposing offense. You've got to watch everything. Although, with Nick Bonito's status, I think that is something about which to be concerned, because not having him really affects your ability to attack in waves off the edge. One of the things that has been a strength for the Broncos is rotating Bonito in with Baron Browning and Jonathan Cooper. They all stay pretty fresh. They have different strengths, but you can put Bonito in for Cooper, you can put Bonito in for Browning, you can mix and match them, and you've got a pretty good set of skill sets. You take Bonito out of that, I think it is going to hinder your creativity and flexibility a little bit. And certainly you can't get all three of them on the field at the same time anymore, which is something the Broncos have had a little bit of success with.
Well, one thing we'll watch for during the week of practice, we won't belabor it today, but we will be watching it because you have an answer, Mace. In the same vein as Justin Hollins or even Baron Browning before him, put Drew Sanders outside and let him rush. I am very disappointed with Sanders on the inside. He doesn't know what he's doing. And he's a smart kid. He's a coach's kid. Like, I will anticipate that Sanders will get it at the pro level on the inside one day. But, Mace, the film has not been kind on that young man. So let him pin his ears back and go get the quarterback. We know he can do that.
And they did rotate him in at the edge yesterday. I think they're going to have to do more of that and allow him to get comfortable there. And it's possible that his future may well be on the edge, because you be patient. Let's see where he goes in the coming off season and the coming preseason next year. But the thing is, what we see out there is that he's struggling to diagnose and process quickly. And when you're on the inside, that's something you have to do. It's a reason why Baron Browning is so effective on the edge is because he had a little bit of a baptism by fire at inside linebacker as a rookie. He's been able to take those lessons and move them to the outside, but even he'll reflect on it and say he was playing inside backer, but it wasn't his ideal spot. We'll find out what that is for Drew Sanders, but maybe from what we've seen on the inside, which has been, slow to diagnose, off balance, missed tackles, late to plays. His future may not be on the inside. To use the term that Sean Payton likes to use, the vision for him may well be changing.
Where's your vision board with Adam Troutman? Let's set this thing up, because I think, what'd you get, 3 questions in for him in this video? Yeah, so let's set it up for everybody.
Yeah, Adam Troutman, the thing with him is he's got a unique perspective because he understands Sean Payton's methodology, and he's the guy that was handpicked by Sean Payton to come into that tight end room, right? And you look back, and it was important for Payton to have some guys that understood what he was trying to do, and could sort of basically be a little bit of a translator sometimes. But he saw it work in New Orleans. Not just with Drew Brees, but he was there for that 2021 team that with Jameis Winston started 5-2, and then after all hell broke loose at the quarterback position injury-wise, and they're starting Ian Book at one point, still managed to come home with a winning record, which was as good a coaching job as Sean Payton has had in his career. And so Adam Troutman kind of talks about the evolution of things, the team buying into Sean Payton, and how things really clicked to get them where they are today. Let's roll that beautiful beam footage.
I mean, I think it obviously takes time, like with anything that's brand new to you, but even I think before the winning streak, guys were buying in. Sure, we were losing the games and stuff, but guys were buying into it. And then I remember, going into Kansas City, the second game, it was this is the game that turns everything for us. And it really was, and here we are sitting at, 4-1 since that game. So, he instills confidence in his players, and we just kind of roll with that.
So even before the game, you guys were there was a sense that this is when the worm turns, basically?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think you can kind of feel it before certain games, and you're like, oh, yeah, we're gonna take care of this, And we felt that numerous times, obviously, sitting here at 6-1 the last 7.
So what was the feeling like this week coming off the first loss since that streak
Yeah.
started?
It's the NFL. Everyone's going to get got at some point, honestly. So it's just regroup, If you think about that game, too, some of the plays that we usually make or usually get calls on PIs or whatever the case just didn't happen. And we still almost won the game as bad as we played. We still almost won the game. So we still had immense confidence.
Shared moments, Mason. I will say this. At 1-5, they felt like they could play with anybody or beat anybody. Now, they weren't bragging about it, but they had that belief. Now, at 7-6, they still have that belief they can play with anybody.
Yeah. And, of course, that being said, they can play with anybody, but as we saw against Minnesota down to Josh Dobbs at quarterback, they can be beat by anybody. That nearly happened that night on Sunday Night Football. Not the best of games. So you're still kind of walking on a nice edge, but there isn't a game right now that the Broncos look at and say they can't win. And as I put out there on social media last night, this is becoming a team of which you would say teams don't want to face the Broncos in January, right? Like there's gonna be a little bit of a tight sphincter if you've got this team coming in. By the way, I mean, they're 6-1 in their last 7 games. It's the best record in football in that span. I mean, they're legitimately good. They are a legitimate contender. I mean, it's wild to say this compared to where the team was, but this team is a bona fide contender. They can do some big things. Is it going to take passing the needle through the camel through the eye of the needle, as they would say? Yes, but they got a shot. They got a real shot.
They do. And Mesa, I said it last night on the post-game show to wrap up today's program. Be a tough out. If they do not make the playoffs for whatever reason, I won't be mad because of this turnaround and the signs are there. If they make the postseason and get waxed, that will be upsetting because they're better than that. So go to the playoffs and either fight hard to the end or go play spoiler. Go upset people. Go surprise people. If you make the dance, anything can happen.
Exactly. And that's what they've done. They've given themselves a shot. And, Mike McGlinchey, another guy who knows about that, knows about what it looks like when a team gets hot and gives itself a shot, because he saw that with San Francisco. I think more relevantly 2021 than 2022. 2022, obviously, they had a couple of home playoff games. 2021 was the year the Niners kind of went the hard way, and they were really trying to kind of figure things out week to week. But there they were in the NFC Championship game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl late before a little bit of a late meltdown. But they gave themselves that shot, and who knows, maybe we're talking about the Broncos giving themselves that kind of shot. Wild, huh?
Who wants a Super Bowl 12 rematch?
Okay, it actually hit me last night. Dallas might be the best team in football. That's
them or Baltimore. Baltimore's damn good. Baltimore's going to be tricky to get past.
Yeah, Dallas scares you a bit. But the thing is, we've seen the Cowboys melt down so many times that I think there's going to be that skepticism.
We're just kind of waiting for it.
It does feel different, does it not? I mean, they're running the ball. I mean, that's another thing. You have a more mature play caller in Mike McCarthy than Kellen Moore, and a more patient play caller who's doing things in a more balanced way. They're setting themselves up to ensure that this January is different for the Cowboys than a lot of the previous ones. But yeah, hey, Super Bowl 12 rematch, that would be something. In Vegas.
In Vegas, that's right. He is Andrew Mason, not in Vegas.
Yeah.
But get warm, buddy.
I will.
I hope you're drinking a warm drink. That looks like a warm drink.
It was a warm drink.
What do you get at Starbucks? What's your drink?
Well, it's the holiday, so I got the gingerbread oat milk latte thing. Oat milk shy thing. It was good. I'm not sure what was in it, but yeah, we're past the pumpkin spice and we're on to the let's see, gingerbread oat shy venti. I didn't see. Is my name on this? No. Okay. You know, it's always funny. I think Starbucks does this intentionally, getting people's names just hilariously wrong. Oh, by the way, speaking of hilariously wrong, one reason we started a little bit late, I thought I might do this from the airport, but then I realized, I have time to get my car, right? Well, I was at one of the remote parking lots, and I had my little thing, a little card that they give you. At a lot of those remote lots, they give you a card that says where your spot is, right? At the airport. I was in E46. The person who drove me to the airport on Saturday morning on the little card wrote A102. I mean, not even close. What in the world? I mean, it's not like it was, instead of E46, it was like B4. No. I mean, oh, gosh. I mean, that was kind of like the Chargers yesterday. Not even close. Not in the same zip code.
Right.
But I'm here. And it was a good show. And it was good seeing you again, Cecil. We gave, as you'd say, a little long yap today. A little extra.
Yeah, a little extra. We got a lot to say. Trust me, we got a lot to say.
Chatty
about
blankety blanks, as you like to say.
That we are. So make sure to check out denversports.com for all of your news and information about, you guessed it, Denver Sports. We're also growing our YouTube channel. So if you've commented in the chat room, comment down below, please. It helps the YouTube algorithm. We appreciate you for doing that. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He's Mace. I'm C. So BT is a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and always stay frosty.